Hey everybody, it's Matt. Welcome back to Wrestling with Whiskey Weekly, the bourbon show for the 21st century, the best damn spirit show on the internet. And that includes you, Fred. I think Fred Minnick is live right now. I just saw his thing on Twitter. This is war, Minnick. Screw you. I'm gonna win. Anyway, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna see him soon anyway. I hope you guys are doing well. I appreciate those of you who come out, those of you who are watching this later, live, or on demand later right here on YouTube. If you have a chance, go ahead. Please like, subscribe, comment, hit those alert buttons so you know every single time that we go live here at Wrestling with Whiskey. Wes, Michael, Sardog, appreciate you guys jumping into the chat nice and early. Tonight will probably be a little bit of a shorter episode. Been running around all day. Got some more things to do tonight, but it's going to be fun. Before we get to our primary tasting here tonight, I did want to update everyone on those who are members of the Wrestling with Whiskey Single Barrel Club. Our first pick, the 1-8 Distilling Untitled pick, that 10-year finished wheated bourbon, cask strength, Zaza, is very, very soon. It just got bottled today. And it will be coming to Illinois to be at the store, to be shipped out and available to all our members. Hopefully, I just talked to our distributor here in Illinois. It should be on the next purchase order in the next week or two. So we are getting very close to that bottle being available to all the members of the Wrestling with Whiskey Single Barrel Club. And on top of that, I just heard back from Woodinville, and they've just approved our label with the Wrestling with Whiskey on it and everything. So they're getting closer. Excuse me, I'm getting excited over here. They are getting closer to bottling that pick as well. And then I'm going to be reaching out to Old Elk, to Driftless Glen, who I think is something, if you haven't looked into them, start looking into them a little bit. They have some more options for us, especially because I think they do have smaller barrels. So since we're still a smaller, intimate group, it might be a good starting point. But I cannot wait to share these first two picks with you guys. And then once people see what's going on, Hot Diggity Damn, which is the name of our first pick, is going to be very, very exciting. And that is going to be something we are going to be looking at going forward. And that everybody is going to be looking at going forward, should I say. But the big thing in today's show is we are once again, I don't know how I get access to these, how I get answers on these emails and these, I don't know, what do you even call it? The freaking press release. That's it. Press releases. They come into my inboxes, and man, I do not expect any kind of answers when I say, hey, I'd love to review that on the show and stuff like that. But between the Kingsman edition of the Glendronach, the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, and now we're going to be looking at the Woodford Reserve Baccarat edition. No, they did not send it to me in a crystal decanter, unfortunately. But let's get it to focus there. There we go. That's what we're going to be getting to today. It does retail for $2,000 a bottle. So, like I said, this is going to be a quick one. Let's jump on into it. Let's head over to the review corner. So as I said, yes, there it is. The Woodford Reserve Baccarat edition. So what makes this one interesting, and albeit a little controversial, as we pour it in here, let it get some oxygen in there, is that this is not some 20-year version of Woodford, some barrel-proof version of Woodford, some any other really different than Woodford, other than it's got a finish on it. So this is standard Woodford Reserve bourbon, which is in, generally a batch blended in that 6 to 8 year range. Some younger, some older maybe, but nothing extraordinarily old in standard Woodford Reserve. But then it is Woodford Reserve and bourbon and taken and put into XO cognac casks and aged and finished for 3 years, which is now, don't get me wrong, that is a long finish for a bourbon. Again, most times we see it, it's a few months. Places like Bardstown Bourbon Company do it for 18 months, which is great. The pick we're doing with 1-8 Distilling, that is nearly a 2-year Calvados finish. Those are on the longer end, but here we have a full 3-year cognac finish on standard Woodford Reserve. So we're looking at something that's in the age range of 8 to 11 years maybe. So still not crazy old. The big thing that adds to the price tag of this is the crystal decanter, and that is why it's called the Baccarat edition. Directly from the press release, Baccarat is a crystal and glass producer out of France. They have partnered with Woodford Reserve on this. I want to make sure I get all the wording right on this because I don't know much about Baccarat. I know plenty enough about Woodford, of course, but I don't know everything about Baccarat. So, they are a leading designer, manufacturer, and retailer of luxury crystal products, founded in 1764 by, who is it? One of the Louis. Louis XV helped found the Baccarat company, which makes these crystal decanters. So this is over 250 years old, this company, and they have partnered with Woodford Reserve. The proof on this is 90.4, and it retails for $2,000 US. Limited supplies are in the Woodford Reserve distillery, but you can also, for one of the first times I've seen from a major distiller, available on Reserve Bar, which is a website that sells spirits across the USA. So this is something that, let's be honest, you're not paying $2,000 necessarily for what's in here, for the liquid. This is a crystal decanter that, according to the press release, takes 5 days to construct. I don't know what they don't explain what that 5-day process, process is. But it takes 5 days to put this crystal decanter together. And that is where bulk of the price comes from. Now, again, a 3-year finish in cognac barrels is nothing to, snort at as far as whiskey finishes. So that adds to the price too. But considering standard Woodford Reserve bourbon is, what, $40 on the shelf? 3-year finish. I mean, I would think maybe $100 bottle, right? For a nice quality finish in really great cognac barrels or something like that. For a very limited edition, $100, $150 maybe. So to get from even there to $2,000, it's all in the bottle. And it makes it a collector's edition. So before we grade this liquid too hard, let's be honest, this is all about the luxury and the collectorship of the bottle itself. This is something, kind of a trophy you're going to put on the shelf and just be like, yes, I've got this fancy new bottle. It's Woodford. They put it out in a special bottle. I picked up a thing. It's the ultra uber luxury market. So, and Jason in the chat talking about, yes, the Macallan, I saw some information on the Macallan Red collection. 78-year-old Macallan, 65,000 pounds. When you get into that world of Scotch and you've got those 50, 60-year plus whiskeys, then you're getting into you're getting into auctions now. You know what I mean? Even this is the upper end of the bourbon prices, as far as retail prices go. So, Jason, we'll start here with bourbon, and we'll, talk to us in 30, 40 years when hopefully the bourbon boom or an industry is still as big as the Scotch is in Scotland and the UK and Europe and everything now. But we have not come here to talk all night long about fancy bottles. Again, we explain that's where most of the price comes from. But at the end of the day, if you're going to spend $2,000 on a bottle, this stuff better be good. And Michael Mearney in the chat brings up a good point. At that point, would you even drink it? If it is all about this bottle, if it is all about this collecting of just trophyism almost, would you even drink it at that point? Because once you open it, it won't be worth that anymore if you were ever going to trade it or auction it in 20, 30 years. Maybe that's part of it too. It's more of like a limited piece of art kind of thing. And you're hoping it's going to be more valuable in 10 years' time when they're not making the Baccarat edition of Woodford Reserve anymore. You know what I mean? So all those things are coming into play here, as opposed to what most of us in this community, this Wrestling with Whiskey community, care about. And that's the liquid. So I feel bad because Woodford was very kind to, and I want to thank them for providing the sample. But we are not the kind of people who are judging it by the bottle and everything. We are here to judge the liquid. And at the end of the day, if I'm paying for the bottle, I'm paying for something to drink. And I think most of you out there are the same way. So I'm going to find out right now if this is a $2,000 whiskey. Even though it is a $2,000 whiskey. Let's see if I think, or we think it is. So cheers, everybody. So right off the bat, a little bit of ethanol on the nose, actually. But there's a really nice heavy fruit note on there. Heavy grape and plum, like a dark, almost stone fruit. Eric, I don't have any regular wood. Do I? Let me see if I have regular Woodford Reserve. I did have some. No, I must have finished it. Damn. No regular Woodford Reserve in the closet, unfortunately. I did have some a few months ago, and I think I either gave it away or finished it off or something. That's one of the problems. I don't have a lot of basics. I'm always buying like single barrels or picks or things like that, so I don't have a lot of like staple products. But I've had plenty of it, and I can try to compare it to memory. LJ in the house, what's going on? Welcome in, buddy. But yeah, this has heavy plum, dark purple fruit notes to it. Very, very much. Like you can tell the cognac finish strong just from the nose. Oof. Yeah. Some light tobacco notes too. Little bit of like peppery notes, but the big take home is the sweetness, is this grapey, definitely brandy, like that brandy cognac kind of notes to it for sure. It's not overly complex. It's very nice. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm trying to give it all, like, again, we're talking $2,000 a bottle. I'm trying to give it all the, I don't know. I want to give it all the attention it deserves. Getting a little bit more floral kind of attributions to it, or just a teeny bit. But it has this weight to it. Already, even on the nose, it has a weight to it. And I can almost smell the viscosity on it, which is very interesting to me. This is probably one of the most like rounded, bold. I feel like it's going to be chewy, even only at 45% ABV, only just over 90. This is 90.4 ABV. Yeah, this is just bleeding grape, plum and grape. That's what I keep going back to. Just bleeding plum and grape. All right, let's take a sip. Cheers, all. Okay. The grape follows through for sure. Absolutely. It is not as viscous as the nose led me to believe, which is fine. Again, we're only talking about 90 proof right now, so not anywhere near cask strength. So not as viscous and chewy as I was hoping it would be, but that being said, the fruit and that depth of kind of sweetness, that deep, dark sugar almost, is still very, very evident here. Now is where on the palate is where you're getting, again, it's great, but with the alcohol actually on your tongue, we're getting, it's almost wine-like notes. Like if I would have blinded this, I probably almost would have thought this was like a port finish or something like that, because it almost makes me think wine more than it does cognac right off the bat, especially on the tongue. It's light, a little bitter actually. For all the sweetness that comes through, it finishes, and I will say this, finishes relatively medium-ish. But there is a bitterness to it that's not inherently bad. It's not like a drying bitterness like that you get from some well-aged whiskeys and bourbons. No, 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 no. This is more just like a dried fruit, like a peel, like the peel of an orange, but not citrusy, but just the rind of a fruit. Let's put it that way. Yeah. I mean, light peppery spice on it on the palate, but and I do keep coming back to this like bittersweet kind of finish, which is okay. It's interesting and it's totally more layered and more interesting than regular Woodford Reserve bourbon, hands down. And I hate to keep coming back to that beginning, man, but we talked about it. I get it's the bottle. I get it is a 200 plus year old glass maker, and it takes days to put this together, and it takes time and probably handcrafted, and oh, but all I have to say is if you're a whiskey fan, you can find far, far better products for far less money. That's just the truth. I think we all knew that was what I was going to kind of say going in. It's hard, like I said, it's hard to justify $2,000. Now, if you do remember, if you haven't watched, go back and watch the GlenDronach Kingsman edition. That's a nearly 30-year-old Scotch. And that is a beautiful whiskey. And that, I believe, was retailing right around $1,100, I think, or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I have the price wrong on that. But that was less or around the same price. But that was a almost 30-year-old Scotch. And that was an excellently crafted whiskey. You were paying for the whiskey with that one. This one, you're certainly not paying for this whiskey. So, I appreciate Woodford Reserve and Brown-Forman sending that sample. It's very interesting. It's far more, like I said, far more developed, far more layered, far more interesting than a standard Woodford Reserve bourbon. You can tell all the extra time that it's been sitting in that grapey, syrupy cognac barrel. It absolutely has influenced this. I wish maybe this would have been north of 100 proof. It would have been a little bit bolder and chewier, and I think maybe would have wowed me a little bit more. I'm not saying it has to be full-on cask strength, because that would be crazy expensive probably. But give me 100, 110 proof maybe. And I feel like there would have been a little bit more of the oils and the viscosity. Again, a whiskey I could chew on for $2,000. If somebody does open this thing, they're going to want something that goes bam. And this is like, And for that money, I want bam. And that just wasn't quite there. But that's the way it goes sometimes. That's what these collector's editions and some of this stuff is about. You know what I mean? It's more about, again, trophyism. It's more about sitting on a shelf, sitting in a library somewhere, in a cabinet, something that you're trying to make a statement with, as opposed to a drink with. But anyway, let's switch on back. Thanks, guys. I appreciate, like I said, it's a shorter one tonight. We're running a little bit all over the place today, but I appreciate you popping in and checking out the stream tonight. Join us as we had the Woodford Reserve Baccarat edition. Again, thank you to Woodford Reserve for sending that. Angus in the chat, I like my money to my... for one of the few times, Angus, I agree with you. 110%. I've got a lot of other great whiskeys to spend my money on, and so do you, and I want to help you guys find them. We'll be back next week, regular old time, regular stream. Next week, we are going to do a full Japanese whiskey flight, then courtesy of my friend Jace. You can see him with Taste with Jace on Instagram. But I've been waiting to do that one. I keep forgetting about it. It keeps falling into the shuffle. But that will be next week, a full Japanese whiskey. A lot of people have asked me what I think about Japanese whiskey. It's very similar in style to Scotch, but it has its own uniqueness to it. So we'll talk all Japanese whiskey next week, right here on Wrestling with Whiskey Weekly. But until that time, thank you guys. Always be trying new things. Be very discerning with your money, just like Angus. And always be wrestling with whiskey. Thank you guys very much, and I will see you next week.